Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 8, Episode 5, overall 390 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210. Tell them Chris Palme sent you, and you can also email the dealership at info@barrycullen.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk is on weeknights from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern on radio station CKRT Border City Radio in Windsor, playing the best soft rock music of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I'm also on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, the home of Southern Talk and Sports, weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. I hope everyone's doing well on this Friday, April 19th, 2024. Hard to believe how fast April is going, and I'm looking forward to my guest today. This will be her first appearance on Live with CDP Sports Talk. Her name is Linda S. Wong. She's an independent film actress, filmmaker, psychology student, and recently starred in the movie The DeMarco Crew. And I'm excited to have Linda on to talk a little bit about her career and her latest projects. Good afternoon, Linda. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I forgot to ask you if I should call you Linda Wong or Linda S. Wong.
Well, I go by both. Usually for just acting and filmmaking, it's Linda S. And then in my other life, it's just Linda Wong. But you can just call me Linda.
And you can just call me Chris as well.
Okay.
So, by the way, CDP are my initials. That's how I came across my name of the show. So Live with CDP.
I love that you're sponsored Chevrolet because, I used to work in the auto show circuit, and Chevrolet was actually my very first kind of client. They were debuting the Equinox out here, I think it was 2008. So, and I was learning. I was I do product specialist and just car show stuff. So, circling back around.
Small world. Yeah, I've been a GM guy for the last 24 years, and I just bought a Trailblazer RS, a smaller SUV Trailblazer, and I'm quite happy with it. And the people at the GM dealership here where I live, they're really good people, and they're supportive of what I'm doing.
That's wonderful.
So how are things in California right now?
Things are very interesting. It's like a time where I'm sure some of your audience probably knows that we've been on strike for SAG for a while, but now everything's back. And I think it's just slowly starting to kind of pop on up. So depending on who you are, you're either super slow still, or, you're starting to get at least a lot of auditions. I'm kind of in between that. So I also just do other things sometimes. So I think sometimes my energy gets a little spread.
Did you find the strike? Did you think, and a lot of people think the strike wasn't going to go as long as it did?
To be honest, for myself, I just didn't really think that much about it. I thought, wow, it is going on long. So it was my first time being SAG on strike. So it's what I know. So I guess in some ways it seems like most people were surprised that it went on. But then there's some people who were like, oh, they thought it was going to go on even longer. So.
And the people that do the acting obviously get a lot of credit, but people don't realize there's a lot of people behind the scenes. Just like in broadcasting, what I'm doing, there's camera guys, audio guys, graphic guys, producers, directors. And in your case, in the film industry, I think the writers don't get enough credit for what they do.
Yes, that happens oftentimes. But I feel like all of it just depends. I think it depends on who you are as a writer. And then there's some people who are writer directors. but generally speaking, there's definitely a lot of the people who, are in the rooms writing. So in that sense, yeah, they're not getting the same amount of credit.
And I see with your bio too, you obviously you're an actress, but you've done a little bit of everything as well. And how important is it in the industry to know a little bit of everything and have experience doing this and that? Because I think that does really help you in any career.
I personally have always liked to learn from the ground up. So definitely helps as an actor. And I feel like as a director, it definitely helps to take acting classes and to understand how to uh, talk to your actors to get what you want. And for as an actor, even just things like, editing, just continuity, remembering when I held this thing, because you can have like this amazing take here, but when they're trying to continue it into the next thing, and if it's not the right hand, then they can't use your good take. They're going to have to use the take that fits more. Depends, actually. Just like filmmaking, I feel like I'm always going to say it depends, because it's different in every level. It's going to be different for every filmmaker. Um, so it's always good to just be cognizant of some of those things, or even, learning sound, because I've also held the boom. So when you watch DeMarco Crew through Nino Chimino, I met them right during the pandemic. And I was fortunate enough to be able to actually roll out. I think we worked on like 20 films in a year and a half, 2 years. And it's a lot. It is kind of like, what do you call it? Like a boot camp, because we were just shooting a movie in like 4 days, and it's like one right after the other. So we are all doing everything. So in one way or the other. And so I think understanding, okay, don't speak too loud here, or speak up here, or make sure, like I was saying, continuity, or making sure your set looks nice, that you have the proper, props and everything, just to add value, especially when you're working on independent films. So, and I think as a writer, I mean, it just depends. If you're just on a writer, I think you could just be a writer. But if you want to be a writer director, then I always think it's good to take some acting classes.
For those who are watching this live stream or on audio that are interested in getting into the film industry or the entertainment industry, what advice would you give them right now, Linda, to get breaking into the industry?
I would give them basically what you did. I started as a volunteer. You show up, and I would say I worked on student films. Sometimes if I didn't get cast and I just actually liked the project, I'd be like, hey, if I'm not the right fit, I would be happy to work on crew, and I've gotten a few opportunities from that. And similar to you, I worked on this one project where it was just a volunteer, but then they ended up getting funding and then ended up getting like $100 or $200, whatnot. So, but I don't really do things necessarily for the money. I mean, of course, that's down along the line, and obviously we need to pay our rent and things like that. It's the passion that you have for it and the drive. I feel like, when let's say you go to become a doctor, you're putting in a lot of time to be a doctor, and you're putting in a lot of money to be a doctor, right? And then, but at the end of the day, you can't be a doctor. Acting is a little bit different. I mean, people doing this for 20 years and they're not going to have the same success as somebody who just went in for like 6 months ago. It's just like that luck of the draw. But I think if you're passionate about it, you're just going to put the work in, and it's a matter of time, and then hopefully maybe you will, reap what you sow. But it's for sure for the filmmakers, the ones who just wanting to get in, it's like you just do it. Like go on Facebook, there's actor groups. And are you talking specifically about acting?
Just the whole industry. And I wanted to know when you found this passion, because I know with me, I was almost 48 years old when I just found something I enjoyed doing and it just clicked.
I would say that I grew up watching a lot of Chinese martial art films, horror films, and AMC classics, because that's like what my mom loved. And from there, I can't say like, oh, I want to be an actor, but I was definitely, drawn in to how these people flex that emotional muscle, and always just curious about people's, the behavior, the history that leads to the behavior, which is why I actually became a psych major. And when I was in 7th grade, the original 7th grade teacher, Mrs. Kalinowski, who's like super hardcore, she actually ended up, I think she must have had glaucoma, because she for the second semester, she was no longer there. We had a substitute teacher named Mr. Mann, and all we did was read Mark Twain, do vocabulary, and he just had us act out the play, or the book. And I was the grandma. And then it would just be, a few things here and there. So always in junior high school, college, I would like take a class. I mean, in college, I actually got a C in acting because I didn't always go to class. But it sort of was always there. And then I honestly feel like it was just a little bit of fate, because how this all ended up was that I was, an accounting assistant. And I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to actually start taking my job a little bit more seriously. I'm going to, I needed a little break from my personal life, that things were happening. And I just needed to like a couple days off, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to come back and I'm going to go to work on time, do my job. I was always doing a good job, but I just do it my way. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to really take this seriously. And all of a sudden I spoke to my boss, and she was like, okay, well, if you need anything, you can always talk to a psychologist or something like that, whatever. And and then she called me, and then she just let me go. So like 2 days into my day off, my niece was born. I remember she called me and she's like, where are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm at home. My niece is born, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go to the hospital. So much for my time off. And then she kind of just let me go right there. And I was so shocked, because I was never intending, I was intending on, okay, I'm going to take this job seriously. Because even though I was a psychology major, I knew that I wasn't really ready to be a therapist. I was thinking I want to be a life coach. And, well, what do I know about being a life coach? I was in a, like a relationship that was a little bit crazy. I was married, didn't have kids. I also didn't know if I was going to stay in Orange County, if I was going to stay in LA. So I was like, I'm just not ready for that yet. So if I want to be a life coach, well, I need to live life. So what are some of the things I wanted to do? And then acting was, in that world. And honestly, sometimes I think it sort of just came to me. It's like you're drawn to it in some ways. And so I, fast forward to the same story is that she let me go. And, I was taking accounting classes, like paying them out of my own pocket at the time, while also working full time as an accounting assistant job. Spencer, just come over here and say hi. Sorry. I really want you guys to meet, because maybe one day you guys could do a dual podcast. This is Chris. This is Spencer. He has Sports and Tacos.
Hey, Spencer.
Sports. Yeah, totally.
Definitely. Nice you too. Great to meet you.
Yeah, it's called Sports and Tacos with remember baseball star Greg Vaughn?
Yes, he played for the Milwaukee Brewers too.
Yeah. So
yes, I remember him. Yes, and I cover
Greg Vaughn.
And I cover 8 sports. I cover hockey, football, basketball, lacrosse, boxing, wrestling, all kinds. I love sports too.
Oh my God, you should go on his show. He also is the writer and the actor in that the American comedy, the reel that I showed you, and that's going to the Cannes Film Festival. It's going to the market.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Nice to meet you. I'm on my way out, but I'll get your contact information from her.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm always looking for guests. That's a full-time job, booking guests. But I love my sports.
I know all about it. Every Thursday, it crosses my mind, and usually by Monday, I'm like, oh man, I really need to book somebody, because we're live at 6:30 on Monday nights.
Yeah, and my show's gone on to 2 radio stations from this.
Sweet. Awesome, man.
So yeah. So no, I definitely like to have you on, and I always like to try to get guests on, and diverse guests as well. And my show is 80% sports, but I also do entertainment and do other things on the sports side.
I'm an actor, writer, producer who is the world's biggest sports fan. I'm from Denver. So go
Denver. Bronco. Oh, okay. I had a Denver Bronco on my show a couple weeks ago. Byron Chamberlain, a tight end. I think definitely, yes.
Bye. I love Spencer. He's the best roommate, and I got to go find a new roommate now.
Yeah, I saw that too. And I know here in Ontario, it is very expensive for owning or renting. And I know a lot of people here now are taking in renters and boarders because of the cost of things.
It's crazy, but I don't want to digress too much, but anyways, I'm sorry, I forgot what we were talking about.
just when you found your passion for this.
Yeah. So just got laid off, and then I met somebody who got me into the auto show that I was telling you about, and then I met somebody from there who got me into my first acting class, Hollywood acting class. The actor, his name is Clayton Roner, and he is a working actor, and he would have these students, and then I started it was like a just dabbled in a little bit, and then it just kind of grew. And mind you, at that time, I was doing auto show and real estate agent, because I feel like every actor does that a little bit. And then also the acting. And then the acting was just always a slow growth. I would just go on Craigslist, and I would just submit to music videos and infomercials. So I really hope that they don't ever resurface. I'm just kidding. But some funny infomercials. And just being curious, and I think that's I think that's who I am. I'm just kind of a curious individual. In numerology, I'm a number 5. I'm always moving. And I think that helps, because I just, I don't need to only be the actress. I sometimes, I would love also working crew. I like being a part of a team that creates something. And it doesn't actually even necessarily have to be in the film industry. I just like that hustle and bustle of everything. That's I'm a bartender, server, and that's like, teamwork, or at least at our restaurant, it's teamwork. And then, I recently went to Burning Man last year, and I was on a Burn Air Express team. And, we're building the community for us and all the people, and then also bringing people in through the buses, and then tearing everything down. It was like my first kind of real manual construction labor type of stuff. Because I hadn't even used, some of these, I don't even know the name of what they are. And I had to, make my own tent. It was fun. But I like that, building something together, if that makes sense.
It's sort of like what I was doing in broadcasting, like doing camera work. Everybody had to be a part of a team, and it didn't matter if you're the on-air talent or you're the guy behind the camera. Everybody had a job to do, and it's like a team effort. And too, Linda, this goes for obviously your profession as well as mine and most careers. Connections are huge in the industry as well.
Absolutely. One of my 5 strengths, I don't know if you've ever taken that strength finder test, is connectedness. And then that's just kind of what I like to do. I was also a headhunter. I did that for a minute, and I feel like I've connected a lot of people with jobs, and then in that way, pay it forward. It's also happened for me too. So it's what you need to do, honestly. I feel like, in order to succeed, and to continue working.
Absolutely. In my former career, I was in security for 23 and a half years. I had to do with bartenders. I had to do with police. I had to do with all kinds of gamblers and all walks of life. And I think that kind of prepared me for this, because that job, I had to learn how to think on my feet, use my mouth, and also listening is huge as well.
Yes. I didn't start acting until in my early 30s. So I got laid off on that accounting job, and then, like I was saying, that kind of led to everything else. So my old boss, her name is Cindy Beal, and I actually, I'm always like, if I ever win an award, I'm thanking her, because I was really down the path of, you know what, I'm going to be an accounting assistant, because I just met this guy and he wanted to start some business, and maybe I could have that type of life. And then it just like rug got pulled right underneath, and so it's kind of funny how life is.
Yeah, it's like with the pandemic we were talking before. It was a hard 2 years for a lot of people, but for me, that's how I found my passion and found this new career, and it got me through the pandemic. Working on this show just over 4 years ago, in March of 2020.
That's awesome.
Hey, I wanted to ask you this as well. I've met so many friends and connections off of here just through guests. Just having Chris Spinelli and Nino. Is it Chimino or Chimino? Chimino. Okay.
I think
they've been on my show a couple times. They've been great, and I think you watched one of our episodes, and that's how we connected on here.
Yes, I love them both. Chris Spinelli is so funny. Oh my God! But yes, we got along really well as our little like film family for like a year and a half, and just bringing people in. I got in from my friend Johnny Avila, who I think I sent you a message. I was like, you should message him. He has some stories. So Johnny Avila asked me to go to a screening because he knew that I like doing action films. And then, like, actually, the backstory to that was I was offered a job to work in Colorado to AD on a job, and for reasons I couldn't work that. And so then I ended up, being free that day. So, Johnny asked me if I wanted to go to the screening. And then from that, I met this guy named Benny Tandra, and he was I think maybe one of the producers on the show. And then, of course, Johnny is like, yeah, we're actors if you ever need anything. He's a great networker. So Benny was looking for crew, and then I was trying to help him with crew. And then I just kind of said to him, hey, do you need any help? I would be a director's assistant for you. And he's like, oh, but, can't really pay. And I'm like, that's fine, because he told me that they were going to shoot 2 movies at the same time. And I was like, how do you shoot 2 movies at the same time? I'm like, when I heard that, I was like, ding, I just didn't understand. And so fast forward to that, I stayed the course with him, and I actually ended up ADing and not assistant directing. He ended up ADing on Nino's movie, A Wise Guy Christmas, and I AD'd for this guy named Scott Hillman, who Scotty's just genius, mind of a genius. And we did A Magical Christmas Tree, which I love Christmas trees. Well, sorry. His whole concept of Magical Christmas Tree is like, why do we cut down a tree for Christmas? And I always thought that anyways. And plus I've always just loved trees. I've always thought, oh, one day I'm going to make a coffee book of trees, but then I'm like conflicted, because then I would have to kill trees to make a book about trees. Maybe I'm a little overthinker. But if you look around my apartment, I just have trees everywhere. So sometimes, it's weird. It's like the right fit. And then from there, they shot 3 movies and Pickup all at one time. And so then I ended up working on 3 movies. And then I pulled my friend Johnny back in, and then we all started working together. And then I met other people, Hart, she's amazing. And of course, and Chimino, and Greg Hatanaka is like the mastermind of it all. And I don't know which reel did you show. Did you show the one that I sent you, or the one that I see as the background?
That's the one I'm going to show. The one you sent me this afternoon on WeTransfer, I have it all ready to go on here if you want me to play your demo right now. I think it's 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
Oh, you do? Okay. So, that one, I just want to tell the story really quickly. There's a fight scene with me and a blonde girl, Nicole. She's also a part of that crew. So it's Gregory Hatanaka from Cinema Epoch. And then Nicole is one of the producers. Chris Spinelli is one of the producers. Nino will go in and write and produce his movies. So, and then there's also a guy named Chris Mallory, and then Gino, who I also put his movie in there in the beginning. So that clip that I sent was really the stuff that I did pretty much the last 2 years, except for like a couple of them that just kind of had a later release that I'm showing now. But I love Nicole. She's the one who got me into Burning Man, so will always appreciate her. And it's just a great group.
I was going to say, when you're working on a film crew and stuff, how important is that chemistry to even making the movie even better?
Oh, 100% important. I mean, that's going to be, okay, as I always say, it all just depends. I'm in the world of independent, like low budget, ultra low budget, no budget films. I don't know how things are when you start working in a bigger dynamic, bigger paid things. Because I've heard like horror stories, but it's still going to produce, amazing quality work. And then I've also, of course, there's the greatest gift will be on a nice high budget film that everybody gets paid what they should get paid, and then they love each other. Because I go to a lot of interviews. We just did this Deadline Contenders. I don't know. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Deadline is a publication for the films, and every year they do what they call it the Contenders TV version, and then they do a film version, they do a documentary version, and they even do like the sound, which is nice. And it's like they just meet and all the filmmakers come and talk about their films, and they say contenders like Emmy contenders or Oscar contenders. And I sit through a lot of Q&A, and I just listen to some of the most amazing stories. We just had one this past weekend, which was what I did on my birthday. And Jimmy Fallon was there. And oh my God, he is a fun guy. He first came out and like he had 2 people give him a standing ovation. And so he just went, he's like, oh my God, I have to take a picture with you because you gave me a standing ovation. And then he went around and started taking selfies with everybody. Like he's just such a funny, down to earth person. And just to see that, because sometimes you don't really know what a person's like. And it's not just the actors. I love listening to filmmakers. Of course, being Asian, I really appreciated that there were some Asian filmmakers out there that I can hear some stories from. But those events, you can live stream, or not live stream, but they do virtual. So I can send you a link next time. And then maybe when you're just sitting around, like when they have the next one, you could virtual it just for fun.
Absolutely. I forgot to do this. Happy belated birthday, number 24. And I hope you had a great day.
I sure did. I did that contender. So I felt like, I'm doing what I want to do. I sit there and I just, imagine, one day maybe I'll be up there and they'll be asking questions, or I'll be up in the panel asking questions, because I have done that as well. I love Q&As, maybe because I have a background and I just tell me about your process,
Absolutely. And with Jimmy Fallon too, doing this media work I'm doing in my radio show, I've met athletes and I thought, okay, they're going to be jerks or not going to be very friendly. And you know what? When you're in media, you see behind the scenes of these athletes, and you should never just assume somebody is just like that. By the way, I love cats. I have a cat myself, a Siamese cat named Latte. She's spoiled rotten. What's the name of your cats?
This is Sir Sunny Bunny Pie, as in P-I. He is totally a mama's boy. I've had him since maybe he was 4 months old. Sitting across from me, she's a little bit less, she's actually great, but this is Monkey, Diamond, Wookie. They're both pets that I fostered. They're foster fails. And they both are FIV positive cats. So it's like the feline version of HIV, but they're fine as long as, you keep them indoors and then, keep them indoors. I was, a little bit worried at first that that they'd get sick, but they have actually, had a couple little like sneezies, and then they've been fine. So FIV positive cats just have more of like immune issues, but people can still adopt them and they can still have a good life. So
absolutely, all my animals, dogs, cats, have always been from local humane societies. I always tell people, adopt, don't shop.
Yes, I had a foster dog for a couple weeks, and it was the first time she was a puppy, and like I just did not like. It was hard. I have carpet. Let's just put it that way. And I wish I knew more about how to deal with that first. But by the time she kind of settled in and I realized, this is what I need to do, because she wouldn't go to the bathroom if she was on a leash. She was also from Mexico. They saved her from Mexico. So I was kind of thinking like, maybe she just doesn't speak English. I'm like, speak Spanish, or maybe wherever she was before, she wasn't actually allowed to pee out there. And that's why she wasn't, and then just understanding how like, what time the dogs eat and then what time they have to go to the bathroom. And it would be weird because I would walk her for like 25 minutes. We'd be like running around, I'm walking her, and then she would not go to the bathroom. And then as soon as she came back in here, I turned my head and she would go to the bathroom. And I was like, what's happening? But then, after I figured it out, I got a little bit attached, but then they did find like a good family for her with kids, and the other, his cousin had a dog, and they lived in a house. I lived in an apartment. Her name was Riley. Well, I named her Riley. I think they renamed her Lily. But I would love to have a puppy one day.
Yeah, I lost my dog a few years ago due to cancer. His name was Riley. He was a Corgi Shepherd. Corgi body and a shepherd face, and he lived for 15.5 years, but unfortunately cancer got him. And that's the hard part of having a pet, is when it's time to put them down. It's like losing your best friend, literally.
Oh yeah, my last cat, he, which I thought originally for like 10 years it was a she, and I renamed her Foxy Lady after Jimi Hendrix song, because when we got her, she was really matted and she just kept hissing because she belonged to my landlord's daughter's friend. And my landlord's daughter found out that the dad was going to give away her cat to this girl that was renting the room out. she was moving to Paris. It's a long story. And she was going to take the cat. Like she went through all the paperwork to bring the cat to Paris because she fell in love with this Maine Coon cat, which is like an amazing cat. And so the daughter was like, oh no, you're not taking this cat. And she brought Foxy and thought, oh, well, Foxy. But when she met Foxy, which her name at the time was Mitzi, she didn't want her, because obviously that she was attached to the one she wanted to take. So, and then on top of that, Foxy wasn't getting along with the cats inside the house. So then my landlord just put her outside. And my boyfriend at the time, I had just kind of recently lost my cat from like when I was, 7th grade. I had him for about 15 years. It was my, I like was so heartbroken with him. But with Foxy, as soon as the cat came into our apartment, we just like brushed her out, and I'm like, oh my God, this cat's so beautiful. She is not a Mitzi. She's like Foxy. And then, she just kind of looked, and then that was like, that's her name from now on. It's Foxy. And he would walk around, and like when he wanted to get fed, he just like purr and like kind of look back and wiggle his butt. It was so cute. And then like 10 years later, I saw him licking something, and I was like, what is that? Is it a tumor? Like, so I Googled it, which don't ever Google it because you'll never unsee what you see. But it turns out he's just a boy. Like he was a boy this whole time, and nobody knew. And I had gone to different doctors, got him groomed, and he was just, it was just a boy. And it kind of made sense because he's like part Maine Coon. So he has very angular features, but he's very petite. But he's a beautiful cat. So anyways, when he passed away, my heart was again like shattered. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll, try to foster or something like that. And I couldn't, nothing ever kind of came through until I ended up starting to foster somewhat right before the pandemic. And then I got Monkey she was like my little pandemic kitty cat. And actually my boyfriend at the time, he was the one who was like, just keep her. I was like, what do you mean just keep her? He's like, I'll help you watch her. And I was like, how are you going to help me watch her? And yeah, and he does, he helps when he can. And so her name was Diamond. And of course I renamed her because I was like, she ain't no diamond. Well, she is actually a diamond. She's a diamond in the rough. But I was like, she ain't no stripper. That's a stripper name. But, so Monkey, the reason why we named her Monkey is because she uses her paws, and she would like play soccer balls, like roll the ball, and she'd like, and then she'd like fetch and bring the ball back. And if she holds her, she'll like want to hold your hand and stuff. And then I named her that. And then the Wookiee is kind of like half my last name and half his last name. And both my cats know how to sit and shake and high five. So they're kind of like dogs.
Awesome. And you know what? Cats don't get enough credit for their intelligence.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, to ask you this, I know with my cat, I have to trick her and fight to get her in her carrying cage to go to the vet. How are your cats with going into a carrying cage if you have to take them to the vets?
Terrible. Oh. I remember that story. I remember your post when you were like, I can't get her. I just had to do the same thing. So one problem with cats that have FIV, and actually cats in general, is like it's their teeth. So when I got her, she already had like kind of a stinky breath. And so when I brought her in like a year and a half ago to get a non-dental anesthetic cleaning, they were like, oh, her gums are terrible. Like they're very inflamed. So I had to go get 10 extractions from her, like 10 of her teeth extracted. And then a year and a half later, I had to do it again because it just came back because those cats, like FIV positive cats, have that. So extracted all of her other teeth. She was already missing 8 teeth. So right now all she has is her 2 little like bottom canines. But she's been doing so much better. I was like just telling my, boyfriend at the time that I was like, man, she's kind of like back to her kitten days. So I think that the teeth really do affect the cats. So it's really imperative to make sure you start brushing them, and you start at a younger age so they're used to it. So Sunny, she still won't let me touch her teeth, Sunny is a little bit better. So I did buy like a little thing to brush her teeth, but I read online, somebody suggested a baby's toothbrush because it's easier. And then somebody also said neck bones. I don't know if you heard of that.
No, I have not.
Chicken neck bones help because they're just like crunching.
But I know with Latte, she does have a cavity, so I'm gonna have to probably get one of her teeth taken out at some point. And that's not the hard part. She's good with the vets and lets them work on her.
Yeah,
It's
right.
getting her in that cage.
Oh yeah, no. I had to with Monkey. I mean, I had to chase her down and like forcefully stick her in the cage. I had to put the cage up and then just like plop her down. And she's really smart. Like Sunny is not as smart. Monkey is really smart. She knows how to dodge me. Eventually then I had to like get her out of my room because she would run from under the bed to the side to the closet and back, and then I had to put all the pillows so she can't go underneath the bed, and then she had to run outside, then I had to close the door, and then she's just like running everywhere. And finally, I did. But once she's in the cage, she's fine. But kind of like you, I wish I had a better help with that, because I would love to be able to take my cats out on a trip, like if I ever go camping, and have them be, because I one day want to have that van life, and I want them in the van with me. So I wanted to do that, but it's so hard. I've tried putting her in my old car once. I had a little Volkswagen EOS. She just like jumped on the dash and just started scratching everything.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, now I have a little bit of a bigger car, so she's, she'll just go underneath instead of like on the dashboard.
What kind of vehicle do you have right now?
I drive an RX 350. I ended up getting that because of the pandemic, actually, because I was like, oh no, what if I gotta go drive because it's like the end of the world? So I needed something that was all-wheel drive, and I just got a really good deal. I was looking at across the board. I'm not, one brand or the other, but that's a high mileage car. I got it for an incredible deal, which at the time during pandemic, like the cars were just absolutely outrageously priced.
Yes, and I had to wait a full year for my car to come. I ordered it in 2021 and during the pandemic, and I had to wait another year for it to come. And then I still had to wait for some chips for my heated steering wheel and heated seats to come in as well. But that pandemic really affected the automakers and the price of vehicles as well.
Yeah, I actually thought about, funny enough, is my car went out on the job. I was heading to the Magical Christmas Tree. We were doing the last day pickup shots. We were supposed to drive to Mount Fraser, which is about an hour and 15 minutes away from LA. And then the day before that, though, it was having issues when we were in Malibu with this place called Sycamore Cove. I think it's Sycamore Cove. But we were driving, and I felt like, okay, there's something up with my car, and then when I got into the parking lot of the park, it wouldn't start. So then I called AAA, but then there was this guy that was there who had a jumper. So he just jumped the car, like those, like, I don't know what they're called, like not a jumper cable, the boxes, right? So he just jumped the car, and then, AAA was actually like right about to turn into the parking. And I was like, hey, I got it started. That was a mistake. Should have got my car on that AAA and went straight to my Volkswagen shop, because what was happening was my timing chain tensioner was going out, which is what it does after like the 50,000 miles. And then I think that feeling of it going and then just dying is like a warning. And so anyways, I obviously didn't listen, and I was like, oh, it's working, cool. And then because the next morning I had a catering job and I was going to be going to Mount Fraser, I needed to do that shoot. So after the catering job, I went and started driving, and thank God the traffic, it was like actually still a lot of traffic, which is why it, and then I called AAA. And then this time the guy came and he brought me to my house, and, he was trying to be nice and start the car for me. And he had a starter too. And he went like this, and he just went, the whole engine went, and he's like, oh my God, I've never seen that before. And I was like, I've never seen that before either. Like, and then, so he left, and then I towed my car to my roommate's knows a guy, and the guy was like, yeah, your pistons are bent. And I know 100% it's because of that. And then afterwards, because I'm like a nerd, I was a Volkswagen EOS. There's like a club on Facebook. Facebook has a lot of clubs for any kind of thing you want to do. So I went on that, and then they were saying like, yeah, if that timing chain tensioner goes out, you do not want to use that starter thing. That's terrible. And then I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe I could have tried fighting it, but I just didn't. And then I wasn't sure anyways, you know, but then I told my brother the story, and then my brother was like, for sure. He's like, this is what's happening. So I took my car to CarMax. They gave me $1,000. And I like, had my brother called me earlier, I would have just kept the car. Cause my other thought was, why don't I could just buy an engine for $3,000 because of how much car prices cost right now. I might actually be able to like sell the car later on for even higher. You know what I mean? Because it was just, again, we're like completely, whatever that word is, inflated. So, but I didn't end up doing that. And because he got back to me too late. We had spent at this time like hours at CarMax, and I was already in line to like pick up my check, you know? And then that was that. I was really sad because that was one of the cars I've always wanted. Volkswagen is like the first car I drove because my sister had a Volkswagen Jetta, and it went to my brother, then it went to me. My first boyfriend had a Volkswagen bus, and I used to drive that without a license around. And then my other boyfriend had loved Volkswagens. His name is Daniel Perdue. He just was like, he actually restored his own like 1950 something Volkswagen, and he would tell me like, oh, if it's got the small oval window and something glass here and all these little things, and we would go to the shows. So my name for like Burning Man is L Dubs, you know, like DUBS, because it's, well, and also because Linda Wong, so it's sort of play on words. But anyways, I was sad to see that car go.
Yeah, my last car lasted me 12 years, and I loved it, but it was falling apart because of the wear and tear, and then the rust too. If you don't get your cars rust proofed here in Canada, the salt that they put down for the snow and the ice just eats away and corrodes. So I tell people, when you get a new vehicle, get it rust proofed, oil sprayed right away, because that protects the body and it protects the engine and lasts longer.
That's something to think about if I ever move to a more humid and cold environment.
Definitely in a northern climate. California, you can get away with it, but in Canada, eventually within a couple years, it'll start rusting out. So I'm a big believer in rust proofing. And I've only had 4 cars my whole life, because generally I keep my vehicles for about 10 to 12 years.
Wow, you're good. I'm like maybe 5 years, and then I don't know what happens. My last car was a Volkswagen. It was a Honda Accord, stick shift, 1994. That car is awesome. I mean, it was so much fun to drive, really comfortable to sit in. It just was like, you know, my other somebody I was dating, he nicknamed it the Blue Bomber because it had a, you know, front somewhere was like a scratch on the door, not by me, but I was a sucker, and somebody was like, hey, you know, I can fix your car. It's like for $100 or whatever, $200. And I was like, really? And then I'm like, you have the paint? He's like, yeah. Cause you know, they look legit. And of course they pulled the car out, and I went inside to do whatever. I came back out, and like, I don't even know what they did. They just were like making stuff up with Bondo, and then they just spray painting it. And then I said something like, well, my boyfriend's coming right now. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, yeah, we'll charge you less. We got to go. And so I kind of just got suckered. So on top of that, I just had like this blue thing. And then I was like, maybe I should just, you know, let some artists like spray paint it. And then the other thought at the time when I was driving the car, I was like, maybe I'll just crash it for a movie, you know, like, because I love to do some like crazy stunts in the car. And, you know, maybe there's something I could do, you know what I mean? But then, of course, that also just ended up going to CarMax. I'm hoping that this car that I have now, I'll be able to treat it a little bit better.
Hey, and this gives me an idea. Maybe the next time you work with Nino and Chris, you can do an action movie that involves car chases and all that stuff.
Yes, I would love that. That would be fun. When we have some budgets. That's like a budget movie.
That's true. Hey, if you're still good for time, is it okay if I play that clip? And I have a few more questions I want to ask you as well.
Sure.
Linda? Okay, and thank you for sending me this clip, and let me know if you can hear the audio okay.
Okay.
Sir, put your shirt back on. This is a public restaurant.
Come on in, Allie. What? Oh my god. I can't believe this is what you bought.
Still can't believe it.
Wow. Housewarming gift?
That is Dawn. He's awesome.
You here to help me unpack?
No, I'm here to celebrate this big, beautiful house. Look what I got us.
Ooh, a break is in order.
Yes.
This way.
Wow.
Howdy, Rita. How you doing today?
Working hard, like I always do.
I suppose so.
I'm guessing you boys are headed to Mexico tomorrow?
Yeah, gotta get out of Monterey.
Well then, safe travels to you, Nico.
Rita,
I need to step outside real quick. I need some fresh air. Really? A vest? Waiting on you, big boy. I've never lost a fight. And I'm not about to start.
It's okay to be nervous, Elias.
not nervous.
Well, you look nervous, and you ought to be nervous. This is a very serious situation we're in. We may not make it out alive.
We'll make it through.
Are you even able to kill a creature? I'm, working for Mr. Van Zandt now, remember? We're doing a business deal with your father.
Well, my father's not here.
Well, I'm not here for your father. I'm here for you.
For me.
Mr. Van Zandt would like to have a chat with you.
I stay out of my father's business dealings.
Okay. Well, we can either do this the easy way or the hard way.
Hello, Miss T.
Back up there, you little bitch, before I kill you!
Damn it! Me. First off, the prints that we found off Randy Bueller's body are an exact match as all the other victims.
That's a foregone conclusion.
But unfortunately, none of the prints from the ladies from the dating app match any of the killer's prints.
Hey, baby cakes, going somewhere? Oh, I felt that. Oh, there, shit, bitch.
If your daddy doesn't agree to the proposal, I'm gonna kill you myself. As I control media, how would you like the whole world to know that you like to wear women's underwear?
What? But I don't like to wear women's underwear.
Well, you do if I say you do.
Thanks, Linda. I really like that. And did you create that reel yourself?
I did. I stayed up all night, half asleep. I'm not even joking. So I actually really wanted to thank you because I've been needing to do that for like a year and a half, and I can't like do things because I don't know what happens. I'm like ADD or something, and I just needed to sit, and I have to have like a reason to do something. You know what I'm saying? And so I did stay up and just cut that, and then I sent a couple of it to my friends to ask them what they thought. I'm still gonna shave it down, but I thought for this, I chose obviously all the stuff that I did with Nino and Chris Spinelli. And Dawn Church is like somebody you should 100% interview. She's an amazing filmmaker and also just an all-around outstanding person. And then Spencer, who I love, is a roommate and also filmmaker. And then that other one, that is Brian Clark. Do you know who he is? He's a wrestler.
Brian Clark. That name sounds familiar.
The atomic, forgot what it is, but anyways, he's like a former world wrestler. I don't know if they're former or they still are. I don't know. But so he's like this 6'3" guy. And then fun fact about that was like, well, first of all, there was supposed to be way more fight scenes with me. And I was so excited because I like doing action films. But they ran out of light. So it was like, we just had to do what we had to do. And then in that scene where he's like choking me, there was more. There was like punching, but I cut all that. I cut that off out, and my head hit the ground, and I pretty much think I had like a minor concussion without realizing it. My head was bleeding, but I didn't know at the time whether or not it was like real blood or fake blood. And then I was like, oh, it actually is bleeding. And then after that, my head started balding. So like I had like my hair started shedding because I read that that's sort of it was either alopecia, which happens especially for Asian women in my age range, and I started freaking out, or that a head injury sometimes can cause that, and like thank goodness it grew back. But it really made me realize like, oh wow, your hair is just like, it's so it's so sacred to you.
Linda, I wanted to ask you this on a film. Do they have like paramedics or somebody that knows first aid CPR in case something like that does happen in filming?
In indie world, no. I haven't actually like stepped out into anything more than indies, which is kind of like knock on wood, hoping what I'll be able to do now because I just joined the union. So with that, there's definitely safety. I've been in some independent films where there are, or I've known people who have gotten injured and they immediately, take them to the hospital and things like that. I, as AAD, I have to create the call sheets and stuff. And we always, know exactly where we need to go because we have to put where's the closest hospital. And then for the most part, there is at least minimally a kit, for like bandages and stuff like that. But there's not always a person designated for that unless I think it's SAG.
Okay. I'm going to ask you this as well. Do you prefer being the hero or do you kind of like playing the villain in a movie?
Well, I tend to get cast as like the right hand person, whether it's a good person or a bad person. It's fun playing a villain because I don't know. So there, I guess maybe a villain, but unless it's sort of like an unassuming hero, because I really actually like action comedy, and so it's kind of like, I always say Brendan Fraser in like The Mummy, or I think that's the right one, where, it's kind of like you just had to, like you just had to step up to the occasion, and maybe my natural self, like, so that one clip with Dawn, with the second clip where I'm just walking into the house, I'm like, oh my God, like that's sort of who my natural personality is, sometimes people will cast me as a villain just because I look like a villain, so it's just natural. But I like being like, oh my God, like, I'm kind of dumb, but then if I had to, because in that movie, it's called Amityville Emmanuel, and the Ron DeFeo comes back to life and whatever, and then we have to fight him and stuff like that. Of course, I'm not the hero in this, but still, it's like having a fight scene that's funny, where you just have to step up to the occasion. So I guess to answer your question, it's great to be able to play both, because at some point it'll be boring to always play just this or just that, and plus sometimes good people, have dark histories and dark path, dark things. And then, and also people who are bad have a reason why they're bad. And you always want to make a villain, a likable villain, and or a relatable villain, because in life, we're not born, well, okay, for maybe some psychopaths, and even then, it's like maybe because they had brain injury, or maybe because they're genetics, right? But like for the most part, sociopaths are made. So with a lot of empathy and compassion, you can really understand like people and their hardships. That's what I love about acting and writing, really, is kind of, during the pandemic, I actually co-wrote and directed my first like short film with these girls, that I met in acting class. And it's just the study of human behavior and like the driving force of why people do what they do, and sometimes it is nurture their environment, but sometimes it's also their brain, and I also like neuropsychology a lot. So I'm, something that I'm interested in learning a bit more of, delving into, because if your brain size is different, or if you're not getting since I don't remember anything that I read, it's like, see, and I don't remember anything that I read, because when I was younger, I've had like a couple of head injuries. I have like a couple stitches here and there. And so, I don't know that for a fact, but I just start reading. I'm like, oh, maybe that's why. Or like I have really messy handwriting. And they say that, when you had head injuries when you were young, it affects everything else, right? So I just find that fascinating. And then in that case, I feel like, oh, you know, the world could be more compassionate about everything with everyone, you know, if that makes sense. More patient.
Absolutely. And one word I wanted to use too for any career is you don't want to ever get complacent in a career, because if you do start getting complacent, then it's probably time to move on to another career.
True that. True that.
How much did you agree in psychology has helped you in your career change into the filming, acting, filmmaking industry as well? And when you're making a movie as a filmmaker, how much input do you let the actors and actresses have into their characters?
For the first part of the question, my degree, you know, it's definitely helps, I think, you know, I mean, what I'm good at, for example, when I was working at the co-writing with my partners, for It's Victoria's Manor is what it's called, Jennifer Blanco, Meg Lynn. You should interview them too. I could literally give you a list of you could be set for like all year long. I know a lot of people, and they're all awesome. But it was like they wanted to be the writer and actress. I just wanted to direct, because I often do too many things at the same time, and one of them does suffer. Like, it really does. Until you're like really good at the one thing, it's just going to be that case. So I really wanted to focus on that. But they would write stuff and then give me notes, and then I would be like, well, you know, would it make sense for this to happen to this? Like, I like to connect dots of behavior and, you know, psychology, and I don't know, whatever that word is. So I guess I use it without realizing I use it. Does that make sense? When I was in 8th grade, I read a book called One Child by Tori L. Hayden. And it's about this teacher who helps elementary school kids who have emotional issues. And that's what I thought I wanted to do. So I kind of knew in 8th grade I was going to major in psychology. And it really wasn't until after my careers in psychology course in community college, and I was like, you know, I'm not ready. I'm just not ready. It's a lot of years, and you just have to know. And I'm like, let me, you know, then the whole life coach stuff. So that's one part of the question. In terms of the other part, which I think you asked about actors, how involved, I would say that, I mean, I haven't actually directed something like a movie completely on my own. So like, I mean, the directing for the short film, yes, but also we were co-writing it. You know, it's just different, a little bit different. But I think in projects that I have worked on, it's extremely imperative that the actor, you know, makes choices. I mean, that's like what our job is, you know, based off of the given circumstances, based off of, you know, your needs, you know, and your it's kind of like Meisner, you live in imaginary circumstances. It's like, what do you want, you know, and then what are the obstacles, and how are you going to overcome them, and what kind of like impediments do you have where you can't overcome them, or it's harder. And so I think an actor should be able to do that with the director, and I think that's why I think it's so important for directors to at least take some kind of acting classes, so that they can really just kind of talk to the actor. Because sometimes, you know, a director will say like, I want you to do more of this, but that's not really necessarily what they mean. You know, maybe they meant like more powerful or more intense, you know, and then they say more mad or whatever. And alternatively, as an actor, to really understand your director, because I've worked on, as you know, like I don't know how many films I've worked on, like kind of a lot, and every director is different. And when I was first starting out, I was the kind of actor that just, and I still kind of am sometimes, like, I need to know, like, is this what you want? You know what I mean? Or am I doing this right? And so I wouldn't make choices, you know, really. I just kind of like, okay, I read the script, I'm just doing this. But in my mind, like, I did this music video, and it was for Black Sabbath, actually. The somebody was making video for Black Sabbath, and there was like, they gave me this like fur thing, and then, you know, I was thinking, and I naturally kind of just wanted to pet it, because of course I play a villain. And then so I like asked the director, is that okay, you know? And then I realized, like, you know, there's some directors who aren't really necessarily focused on the acting. They're going to be more technical directors, and they just want to get the shot, you know. And then in that case, you kind of have to know what type of director you're working with. And some directors might not know the technical stuff, and they might shoot you at like your worst angle, you know what I mean? whatever. So you kind of, I think it helps to kind of like know that. And then in order to do that, like you just got to communicate. But every set is so different. And so I guess I've only just learned by experience. And since I've just worked on so many different sets, not just as an actor, but just overall crew or whatever, like I've watched a lot of things, you know, or observed. And, you know, I feel like, you know, sometimes you have these like more seasoned actors and they kind of come in and they like own the room. I mean, I can understand why like you do that at a certain age. You're just like, I know what I'm doing. I've been here, done that. Like, you know, and it's kind of actually, I think that's good too, you know, to know what you want, you know, and to ask for it and to not in a rude way. And then really just to be open for, you know, a creative, like, I don't know, discovery or curiosity and to find things. Because sometimes you might think this is how it's going to go, but it actually ends up like this. Or sometimes I'll like, go, you know, I can't remember which one it was, but it was like, it took me, you know, I don't know how many times I probably read the line. And then I was like, oh, I get it now. Like I didn't see it before, you know? Or maybe I just interpreted it differently and that's not even what it is. So I'm not sure if I answered the question.
No, you did. And wanted to ask you this too. Do you have a few more minutes still, Linda?
Yeah, I have
okay.
all the time until my stunt class.
Okay. What is BTS photography? Because I was reading up on that, and I just wanted your explanation on BTS photography.
It's BTS is behind the scenes.
Okay.
So, yeah, usually for like the lower independent films that I work on, I'll just take pictures of the, you know, anything that's happening behind the scenes. And even like in a professional way, you'd have like a more professional camera with like a housing that makes it quiet so you can take, you know, pictures while the actors are acting. So I enjoy doing that. I love taking pictures. That's probably, you know, I have like at least 60,000 pictures on my phone right now. I take pictures every day. It's like, I know, and you know, my phone's not that old. I enjoy taking, I don't even always look at them again. As a matter of fact, I don't, which is the problem because I don't ever post anything, but I have, because I'm always taking the next thing, you know? So I just love something about being behind the lens is meditative. And I also do enjoy kind of like you. I like grabbing the camera and like for Victoria's Manor, I was can't be camera because I like to look for the angles and do that kind of stuff. I'm just not technically trained, you know, so, I mean, like the benefit of film school, which I have never gone to, you will like understand a lot more technically speaking and be able to, you know, on a professional level. And even like as a producer, I've produced like also like a lot of films too, usually out of necessity. And I'm like a producer, like an on-set producer, but there's some things like with paperwork and things like that that I don't know, but I am learning. I'm working with a film distribution and sales company, and I'm currently their sales assistant, also it's like as a side gig. So they are bringing me to Cannes this year. I'm really excited. It'll be my first time. It's the film market, but then it's also awesome because it's so coincidentally, it's also like Spencer's film is being shot there, you know, I mean, being screened there. So the timing is a little uncanny. And then Formula One's going to be there. I love cars too, because, you know, I've always been into all that stuff. So I'm going to try and catch that the last weekend of May, or the weekend. I don't know if it's their last weekend, but I don't know if you're into Formula One.
I went to a NASCAR event 22 years ago in Michigan, 100,000 people, 90 degrees or 95 degrees. I ended up in a medical tent because stupid me, I wore a black leather hat and I wore dark colored. I didn't work light colors and I ended up getting heat stroke and I missed the whole thing. My friend wondered where I went for 3 hours and I said I was in a medical tent from heat stroke, exhaustion from being out in the heat. But it is so, NASCAR or Formula One racing is so popular.
Yeah, it's so loud. I just was like, oh my God, I got to remember bringing earplugs. But yeah.
All right. Who are some of your influences as actors, actresses, and filmmakers and producers?
That's a hard question. It's hard because I don't remember people's like names and stuff, figures and things. I would say Like, I love Kate Blanchett as an actress. I've seen some of her Q&As, and her personality is just, she's so like, she always plays these serious roles, but she's kind of just a goofball, which is kind of like how I feel about myself. I really admire all actors, for the most part, and actresses, and then even just like the people that I work with. There was a woman I worked with in the beginning of my start of my career. Her name is Toy Lee, and she's just badass. She's this like Asian lady who's like, martial arts, and she just goes for it. And I remember when I started doing, in my early 30s, when I started acting, I liked action because I would watch all those like Chinese martial art films. And then I was like, I want to be a Bond girl. That was kind of my thing. And so I met this guy named Dino Vincencio, who was like, hey, why don't I, write some stuff and teach you choreography? And like, you'll see some of that stuff on that reel of where my back, like the reel on my IMDb, I think has some choreography that he taught me, but he trained me in all that stuff. But I was like, I'm not going to go into classes, like Toy was going to jam and doing flips and shit, and stuff. Sorry, I don't know if I can say shit.
It's okay. It's okay.
So, and I, it's just, she's amazing. And, and we worked on a thing called Boxer. I actually have it here because just in case. It was like, I worked on an Asian, like some film festival thing, and we won like all the categories. And it's about this Asian woman who's a boxer and doesn't tell her kid that she's a boxer, and she thinks she does something else, and then stuff happens. And I think they were trying to develop a feature film. I'm not sure what's happening with that now. But, she was an inspiration. Zora Hussein, who's Zora Z, who I work with closely, we went to India, and she's such a filmmaker. She's such a great DP and producer. She started as an actress, but I met her like in the auto show circuit. She was like, oh, my brother's getting married, in Dubai. Do you want to go to India? And then while we're in India, we're just going to shoot a short film about some, she came up with the story. And then that's just what we did. We just went around and shot all the cool places that we shot in India. And we got pulled people from the streets, just though, my inspiration for those people. And again, as I mentioned, Don Church. So, and all my other filmmaker friends, actually, like, or less, just in case my brain went like ADD style. Eric is, the boyfriend that I met, who the reason why I got into acting class, because it was interesting that one year during the auto show, I just kept meeting actors. Like, really, it was just like, oh. And then I kept meeting actors who like actually went to this acting school called Baron Brown. And that wasn't like the popular school. It just was like, that's weird. That's the one. And so I got cast in this project, and all the actors were really good. And I was like, oh my God, I better get into a class. Cause at the time they were like, oh, maybe sci-fi was interested in it, maybe FX. And I just immediately jumped into Baron Brown. But, meeting Eric, he was, we ended up dating for a little bit, and, him and all the friends and the people. And I was like, I'm going to go to the school because the people are really cool. And my teacher, D.W. Brown, it's like, he doesn't try to make you like a better actor. He makes you a good, better person. And at the time, he would always reference like YouTube videos. And I really got onto the YouTube train like way late. I really wasn't into looking at devices or computers or anything like that. But now I will have to stay on top of it because that's the future. Well, that's the present. But I went into that school. I loved it. It's Meisner training. So that's the other thing, like audience. I think Meisner is a very good foundational training because it teaches you how to feel about things. And it really wasn't until I was done with my 2-year conservatory that I would remember one day when I first took my scene study class, my teacher, God, Clayton Roner, he was just amazing. We were doing, I think, The Odd Couple, and he was, I was like, I understand what you mean, but how did you get there? Because he could just go through all these different emotions so quickly. And he was like, 20 years of acting, honey. And I was like, what does that even mean? And then after I was done with Meisner, I was done, and I was actually watching a video of Sandy Meisner. And then I was like, oh my God, I totally get it. So then I emailed him and I was like, I get what you mean now. And it's always a learning process. It's fun and it's crazy. And I meet with this group of people because I also just studied with Larry Moss, was one of my first books that I read, and he's an incredible teacher. So some of the students, we formed like a little script analysis, because it's all about script analysis. The script analysis class, like a group of us, and we've been, we're actually now reading A Hot Tin Roof. I don't know if you've ever read that play.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Of course, I've seen the play, or, scenes done in other classes, and it really wasn't until you delve into the mind of the playwright. And Tennessee Williams, had a hard life. His sister was had issues. I'm like, this is where my brain freezes. His dad was an alcoholic, abusive. His mom was like a very Christian, or like Catholic. I forgot, just like religious woman. And he writes about that. So when you read his plays, it all's like, oh, this is like his sister, and and it's all the central themes, because people write about what they know. And then I feel like more connected to a piece when I know it's from like the heart, when I know it's from their experience in life. And for me in the future, what I'm hoping, if I direct something, that's like, it's probably going to be something that I write or co-write. Well, it'll be anything. I'm not going to say that, but like, it's, well, finding the courage too, because you have to be pretty courageous to talk about things that you don't want to talk about, or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's the kind of stuff that I like, what I find that's, I don't know if it's life-changing, or like, that people really resonate with, because you can watch something. And I mean, Old Yeller was one of my favorite movies, and it was like the best movie, and it just made me cry because it was so sad. But like the tears was, of course, about the dog, but it's also like, oh, I probably had tears of sadness about other things that I wasn't crying about. You know what I mean? But that gave me like, it opened everything up to feel. And I think that's kind of what people need to do. I mean, everyone's so, private, or they're repressed, or they don't know how they feel about things. And the Meisner training, like, to me, it was 2 years of therapy almost, because I'd just gotten out of the relationship with that guy I was telling you about, which was great because I wasn't attached in a class. I was able to like fully give, because when you're in a relationship, you got your wife and your child and you're this and you're that. You don't go to all the things. Like, our group was so amazing. That year I just got lucky where I was in a class full of, I think, 9 or 11, like either Asian or part Asian. Like, usually I'm the only Asian. And then age range, of course, I was, like I was saying, in my 30s. Like, the age range was like 6. We had like a 17-year-old girl, I think. She's like barely turned 18. I don't remember how old. She was just young. And then we had like maybe a 70-year-old man. So it was just like really across the board, totally, ethnically diverse. And we all just got along so well, and it helps. Like, I know we were talking about that earlier, because I think the better you get along, the more you can actually, like, let's say you have a scene where you have to be mad. Like, you can really go there because it isn't real. You know what I mean? Like, you're just playing. So like, you could act crazy around like your best friend, right? Because it's just what it is. At least I think so. So my best friend, I have a few. Well, I should probably make up a few. I have my one, Megan. Like, we're just completely ridiculously silly around each other. She's a singer. If you want to, you should interview her family, because she's got like a multi-talented family where they could sing. They'll probably like write a song while you're doing your thing. So anyway, sorry, I'm just gonna plug everybody I know.
No worries. This is what I love about this, is the storytelling aspect. And I always learn from my guests. This is something I forgot to ask Chris and Nino when they were on last as actors. Memory, memorizing lines. How difficult is that? And what kind of tricks do you guys use for that?
I of course can only speak for myself. But I do know some people who just have photographic memory. And honestly, I was filling out I have this like little book that's like questions that you answer every day. And one of the questions is, what special skill would you like? And I thought about it and I was like, photographic memory. Because if I have photographic memory, I could literally do whatever I want, because I could just read about it and then do it. Some people have that and they are so lucky. Other times it's just repetition. Like Spencer, he has like a thing, I might be getting some of it wrong, but like he'll like run and then toss his pen and just say his lines over and over and over again. I was taught this other method where you take a pen, you know, and you're like, you go every sentence like, the mother is nice, you know, and then you just keep doing that while also listening to music. Because what you don't want to do is memorization in like, you don't want to remember it with the emotion attached, because in case you get redirected, you know, and I have actually like, we'll talk about that another time, but like where it's hard because you can't break because you've memorized it that way. And then if the director is like, no, I want a different emotion, then it's kind of like hard to remember to remember the lines. You know what I mean? So that's why they say you got to just remember them like the Pledge of Allegiance. And the other method, there's like a few different methods. It is depending on the person hard. Nino, oh my God, he's incredible because, well, he writes a lot of the things he acts in. So he can act in 2 of his movies at the same time and memorize all the dialogue, you know, I mean, and also do all this producing work. So I think the more you practice it, it's a muscle. Your brain is a muscle. So the more you do it, the more better you'll be at it. Of course, if you have any brain injuries, like I think, I'm just kidding. You maybe just have to do it more. But like I'm a server at a restaurant, and for the most part, I don't really write like people's orders down. Like I can memorize that and just like type it in. I could have a party of 12 and be okay. But with the lines, you know, it's a little bit harder, but the more I'm doing it, because I actually hopped into a class I'm studying now at Ivana Trebek with Michael Monks. He's awesome. Oh my God, such a great teacher. And I feel like at the first few, you know, scenes, it was just like struggle, you know, like for me. And then I have gotten a little bit better at it. So I think that just the more you do it, the better you get. And if it's really good writing, it just writes itself. And then it's a lot easier. The things that are hard to memorize is when like the grammar, you know, it's like, is it they before that, you know, whatever, like just little things. But the other thing you could do, because I also study at this place called Matthew Barry. He's an awesome teacher as well. He has a great memorization method. He also, you know, one day I was sitting next to him because his students are just so good. I'm like, oh my God, how are they off book? And then when I was sitting next to him and I was like, and also looking at the sides and like, oh, they're not actually 100% off book. You know, it's fine if they mix the grammar or they say one sentence before the other sentence. It's just that they just keep going and they're not going to stop, you know, and then you stay in character. And there's some things you have to, like some comedy is written, it's very formulaic. So you got to hit the beats. And then there's some directors, again, going back to, you got to know your directors, got to know your writers. They are like, you got to go verbatim, you know, and that I think is just taking time and memorizing stuff. I worked on this horror film. Like, I don't know if it's a horror, it's like a cult film. And the guy, Danny, the lead actor on there, had just like mountains of dialogue, and it was very hard dialogue because it was it's biblical too, you know, and like it's just like no one speaks that way, but he just killed it, like so good. And I think he said he just spent hours, just time, repetition.
No, that's good, because that's something I forgot to ask Chris and Nino as well. Do they during these films have blooper reels where somebody just messes up a line and they play it for the cast after the movie's done?
I don't know if they do it for Cinema Epoch. I mean, they would just have so much. I mean, definitely other places they have it. Different ones. I love the blooper reels, or just like that little button, you know, that you get after you watch all the credits, because it's just so funny.
What are some of your favorite movies, and are you a science fiction fan as well?
Some of my favorite movies, I love The Princess Bride. It's one of my top. I love American Psycho. As I mentioned, Old Yeller. I don't know the name of it, but there was a series when I was a kid. It was like a Chinese martial arts series. It's called like something flying, maybe White Condor. That just really sticks out to me because that's that's what makes me want to do action films, because I do study at a stunt school. It's called Stunts in Motion. So it's like action for actors. So it's not like stunts. But, I was talking about Toy. I was like, man, she's doing all these flips. I was like, I'm not going to do this. And here I am, like over a decade later, I finally got into a stunt class, and I was like, oh, oh my God, what if I did it back in my 30s? Like, what was I resisting? You know, because I'm older than most of the kids in class, and I'm getting thrown into a bunch of boxes. We're like falling into this. We're doing all these rolls and jumps. And it's like, if you keep your body active in motion and, you know, and flexible, I think if you're flexible in life, not just for your body, but just your mind and everything else,
Absolutely.
it's gonna, you know, it's gonna be beneficial, you know, than just being hard about everything. So, what was it? Sorry.
Don't worry about it. It happens. I forget.
All those movies. And then like every movie, I like Harold and Maude, you know, have you ever heard of that one?
No, I have not.
Well, it's like this old lady who has like this really young lover, especially now that I'm old and I haven't met a guy yet.
You're only 25. You're only 25.
You no, well, that's not what I liked about that was actually my old boyfriend one of my old boyfriends is the one who told me about it, and he liked it when he was like 20. It's kind of like pretty cool, but it's really about impermanence, you know, like not to be too attached to anything. It's like a good Zen message. I don't even know. Like I like all kinds of movies. I'm not, you know, I'm not a cinephile. You know, I just like to act in movies, and I don't really sometimes watch anything that I act in also, because it's really hard. Like it's like uncomfortable watching the reel. I like cutting it because I'm really looking into like the transitions and trying to, you know, make it a little bit kind of exciting or like, you know, intentional with what I put together. But you know, for the most part, I really sit around and I listen to like astrology because I'm really into astrology on YouTube, or any kind of like podcast is like the thing I'm starting now. Anything informative, I love to learn. And then what was the other question? Like, what's my favorite movie? And then what?
I think I forgot that as well. Yeah, it happens to the best of us. Believe me, when I did a live interview with a baseball manager last year, they told me ahead of time what his name was. And then during the interview live, I completely forgot his name, but I managed to get through the interview without having to use his name. And apparently I'm not the only one. It happens to all of us.
Oh, I've done those red carpet interviews like quickly, and I don't remember. Like I mean, I know you got to listen, but sometimes when it's just like a million things going on and there's people and you know, it's like it's hard to like really focus and attach. And I think maybe, you know, like that's some people have that gift. What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie? I like science fiction movies. I like action movies. I love Adam Sandler movies from the 90s, like Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison. I'm a Star Wars fan, the original Star Wars from 77 to 80 and 83. And The Rocky. I'm a fan of Sylvester Stallone, the Rocky movies, because I'm trying to prove to people at my age that you can switch careers, and his movies are so motivating. And I would say the Rocky movies and Adam Sandler type movies and stuff like that, and Star Wars, the original ones.
Yeah, the story of Rocky, or the story of whatever, like somebody had sent that to me before, and that was very inspiring, 100%. Oh yeah, so I do like sci-fi films. I'm not like necessarily, you know, like I'm not like a fan, like a huge fan of things in general. I just like kind of everything except for my cats and noodles. I like to eat noodles. But the sci-fi, I like acting in sci-fi films because they're just fun, you know, and I wish I was smart enough to write a sci-fi film, you know, like, you know, it's like I'm a wannabe nerd, but mostly, you know, or like, I like, yeah, when I was younger, I used to run around and play G.I. Joe with the boys, you know, like I was just a tomboy, I think. Still am.
Have you learned special effects yet? Because that's just amazing, the special effects nowadays in 2024.
You know, I have not sat down and learned how to do that. That is sort of something I need to overcome. Like it's hard for me to sort of sit still for a really long time. So there's some things like, you know, I have like this bass back here. I have instruments around. I love hearing music. But I'm not really good at playing any of them because I don't like sit down long enough to do that. And so with special effects, I think it would be awesome to learn how to do it, right? So it was just like, you have to sit down and do it. And maybe one day if I have to cut, my own movie, I would. I have to have like a reason to do things like The Reel. Like, thank you for giving me a reason to sit down, start it at least.
How important is the music to a movie as well?
I think it's very important. Okay, I take that back. I think it depends on the movie, right? I like music. For example, for that short film I did, Victoria's Manor, I like to hear dialogue, and I like the silence in between things. I do not like, for example, what is it called? Oh my God, I'm sorry. My people are going to hate me. Like the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Oh my God, Indiana Jones. One of the Indiana Jones, it's like, it was just too much music. And I don't like it when they try to use the music to bring up the emotion when the story itself doesn't support it. Because then it feels fraudulent to me. Because I'm like, I'm not there yet. Then I feel like I'm just at, I'm at a Universal Studios and I'm like sitting through the thing, and you know what I mean? But when it's right, it's right. Like, if you can, I think music composers are incredible. I think every artist is incredible, because I don't know how people do the things that they do. I'm just like a poser, but like they just like how they create, the sound, how they write a story out of friggin' nowhere, but the sound could really bad sound could ruin a movie. So I have watched this one movie, and it was like something about like people were trying to crawl out of a hole, and I like had to leave because I couldn't deal with the music. It was just like, but I also believe that people have different sensitivities to sound. So maybe it was just sensitive to me, because like we all have different styles of music. So, and then on the flip side, I think the music is I guess I should say sound design overall, because sound design can also mean no sound, right? So yeah, it's very, very, very important.
Especially, some movies, they can overkill it, and you're right, because I think Nino and his movies he's done so far, I think they've done a good job with the music in the background of his movies so far. I'm going to ask you this question. How much has the film industry changed in the past decade for like, especially the independent movies? And how hard was the industry hit during those 2-year pandemic?
So I think it's changed quite a lot just because of technology. I don't know, is it 10 years ago? I mean, I guess I started around that 2008 is when I would like started going to that school, and then just like still dabbled. I mean, I graduated out of my class at 2013, and then, that's kind of like when I was like, oh, okay, I'll go. And we had Tom Cruise as our speaker there in
Wow.
So I know, it was so cool. I was so mad because I had a camera and I bought an SD card, and I didn't realize, because I'm so technologically, I'm getting better at it, but just duh. It was like I thought I bought the wrong SD card, because it was a micro USB, but that micro USB, I was like, this doesn't fit my thing, but it had the adapter the whole time. I didn't even know for years later. I was like, oh my God, I was just supposed to stick this in the adapter to make it the same size SD card. So I didn't get the photos. Like, oh, I was so mad. But we were so lucky, because it just so happened that somebody in his family was also in the school, and I don't know how we got Tom Cruise. I just remember the girl next to me, she like held on. She's like, oh my God, because we had no idea. It was this like huge surprise. And his whole thing was like, oh, just go live life. I'm like, he got lucky. He got lucky. He's talented, but he also got lucky. And then there's just that too. Sometimes people get right place, right time.
At the right time. And that's sort of what happened with me. And it does happen. Just, you need a little bit of luck too.
And so that shift, with everybody now wants to make a movie. Like back in the day when YouTube was growing, and, maybe cameras were a little harder to get to buy, right? Because now anybody could be anybody. And then there was no real social media, really. Like Instagram was sort of just starting. There were no influencers, and it was definitely, at that time I was actually eligible to join SAG. I worked on this project and we Taft-Hartley'd everybody, and I just didn't join. And, and then now, like, I joined, of course, like at the worst time to join. Well, first of all, we closed. And then second of all, the industry has shifted. Whereas again, maybe it was less Asians. Now everybody and their mother and sister want to be actors because of the whole influencer thing, which is cool because I know that, I was like, oh, why do you want to be actor? And I was like, well, you do have the opportunity to influence people, and some people, and so it's great. So whatever. But it's harder because now you're competing with people who have a built-in audience, because at the end of the day, when you're talking about like movies, it's dollar and cents, at the end. For production, it's about making money when you get to that certain level. To be an independent filmmaker, I mean, it's easier because now you can just film something awesome on your iPhone. But then who's going to watch it? That's the part that's hard. It's the marketing of it. There's so many avenues and there's so many different places. Like, where do you go? But again, everybody pretty much goes to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, right? Is there, what else? I don't know. I don't even have a TikTok just because I didn't want to.
I joined a couple years ago and I thought, I'm too old for this. This is silly, ridiculous. But you know what? TikTok has been a great tool. I've got over 2,000 followers now. Not a lot, but more than I thought. And I learned how to cut promos for my guests, such as yourself, my show, my media work. And it's really been a really good tool. And I can put all my player and coaches and player and coaches interviews on TikTok. And then after we're done our show tonight, I can cut this show into 1-minute reels and post it on TikTok too, because I know our society, sometimes people don't have 40 minutes or an hour to watch a podcast. So I now learn how to do shorts and reels and promote my show that way too from TikTok.
Yeah, I do agree with that, with just all those little things. Time everyone's attention span, so I haven't done it yet. I did actually just recently started using ChatGPT, like I was telling you, to help me create my bio, because I was like, I don't know, I'm good at editing, like let me just shoot something out and then I could I could edit it, but also just like all kinds of stuff. I know people don't like it for the reasons why they don't like it, but then there's also a whole nother world that loves it for that same reason. It's I guess it is just what it's going to be. But I find it to be pretty helpful, especially if you're not a natural born writer, and or just like it's like having an assistant, like, hey, what do I need to do for this? Like, I'm going to the Cannes Film Festival. I asked ChatGPT, like, what do I need to do? And it just kind of gave me these pointers. And, and I emailed the Cannes Film Festival people because I'm going to be there. I work until the 22nd. And then like, after that, I'm off. Like, I'm staying a little extra and I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to figure it out. So I was trying to like, hey, can I volunteer? And then they just kept redirecting me to their website. And I was like, well, if I had the answers in the website, I don't want to be emailing you, what I'm thinking. So it was kind of, so I was like, hey, ChatGPT, blah, 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 blah. So maybe I will be, if I do join TikTok, it's going to be for my cats, because I always actually, which was originally what I thought I was going to do. It's just that I always have like my phone, I have an 8. I actually have the 14 to which I'm filming myself. I don't know why, because I could just watch you. But I use that just for videos and stuff like that, and pictures. And I'm still just using my little 8. So I always had these issues with storage. And just the fact that my phone's is inferior to the technology, because the technology is growing so quickly. So I would just like, oh, I can't use this unless I update stuff. So now, like in retrospect, I was like, oh, I should just, if you want to be in the forefront of anything, you kind of have like technology, like get the thing and get on it soon and do it fast. Because the TikTok, I'd asked my sister, so should I get a TikTok account? She's like, it's for kids. But I thought about it for my cats.
Yes.
I want to create
that. Yes.
Sunny Monkey Show. So
yes, I post videos of dogs for adoption at a humane society I volunteer at as well. It's a really good tool if you use it the right way.
Okay.
By the way, I have a Samsung Galaxy S10 phone. I got it 5 years ago. It's a great phone, but now I'm going to have to upgrade to the S24 Ultra because 128 gigabytes of memory is not enough. I use it for my media work. So you're right, with the apps and the technology, you need to get more and more memory and stuff. So that's why I have to upgrade my phone, even though I still like it.
Do they no longer do like the SIM cards?
No. So, and I figure I'm going to go from 128 to
Mm-hmm.
512. 512 should last me in maybe about 7 or 8 years from now.
Yeah, I have to because I'm just using, like, I'm paying for iCloud, and I know that I need to consolidate everything because I even had bought like like the SSD card to not card but the whatever you call it, to like start storing stuff on those things, because I mean I'm paying $20 a month or something, and it's like for pictures I like never look at. it's silly. So, but I know there's got to be a more efficient way to do that.
Absolutely.
So I should ask ChatGPT that question, actually. Just kidding. Do you use that?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you use ChatGPT?
No, I don't. No.
It's pretty fun. I'm just using the free version.
By the way, I wanted to ask you this too before we wrap things up. Live streaming, do you find eventually they're going to get rid of movie theaters altogether in the next 5 years?
I don't know. I wish I could predict the future. That would be my second skill set. But there is something about going to a movie theater, sitting with the people that you don't, strangers, and just like laughing about something or being in awe about something. It's that experience that just it's incredible, and you can't really get that watching TV here by yourself. So I hope not. It's just that everything costs so much now. So I feel bad for kids. When we were watching movies, it was like $4 a movie, we go eat popcorn. Yep. And then it's like so much just to like watch a movie. It's, it's hard for people to be able to do that all the time. And then snacks and parking and all the other stuff. And I know they have like the passes for people, but I bought that one pass movie pass thing, and I loaded it into one phone, and then that phone stopped working. So I tried loading it into the other phone. It wouldn't load the other phone. So I only watched one movie with that. So I basically spent $100, and I was so pissed, and I tried getting somebody to respond back to me, and they didn't. So, I hope that the answer is that I hope not. There'll always be screenings. So that's the benefit of joining. One of the benefits of joining SAG is I get to go to all these awesome screenings. So I do get that experience. So I'm not necessarily paying. I mean, I'm just paying dues paying dues so that I can go to these things. But it's fun.
The technology is great, but it's also, to me, it's shrinking the movie theaters and also malls. I know the malls in the Buffalo area, a lot of them are going under because people now are doing everything online.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that. On one hand, it's like I went to the mall yesterday. I have a really good friend who's getting married. Actually, she's one of my first friends from that class, that Clayton Roner class, my scene study class. She was in there. It was cool too because I had this like international group of people. She's Romanian. Her name is Mihaela, and then we had this like Italian guy, and we had this Israeli guy. But she, oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. What am I talking about? What were we talking about?
About the malls, the movie theaters and malls.
Buy clothes. I was looking at some, clothes. But it's like I could just order something online for half the price, and it's just going to be shipped to me. And even though I feel bad about it because it's like fast casual clothes and it's really kind of polluting our environment, but it's like, what do you do when you also have to spend, $5 for a drink? So I feel bad for malls. It's fun to be able to go in and, like check out stuff, but it just seems to be more cost efficient to order them online.
And finally, what are 3 words which would describe your career as an actress, filmmaker, producer, director, and a BT behind the scenes photographer.
What 3 words? Oh my God. I need a thesaurus.
Or one word, if you want to cut it down to one word.
Well, I would say passion. Like tenacity and curiosity.
Good choices. Good choices. All right. And then I do this with all my guests too. What are some fun facts about Linda S. Wong that your fans and audience might not know about yet?
A lot of things. Do I have fans? Just kidding. I don't even know. I like to eat chicken wings a lot. I like to eat chicken cartilage. Is that a fun fact? I like to travel. I'm like I was saying, I guess I already said the astrology thing. I actually just saw the solar eclipse. It was awesome. Yeah, I don't really know.
Have you thought about being a comedian?
Well, people say that I should be because they think that I'm funny, but I don't really think that I think if I was like on like the pressure's on, I just will blank out and they'll be like, what's wrong with her? Or I'd start cursing, which I was like really, really making sure I didn't throw any bad words. So I don't know. I mean, maybe. I think it's you gotta have, it's courageous, very courageous to be a comedian, like a stand-up comedian. So I like to do funny things. I'm like a child, I'm like a 14-year-old boy. It's like it's like I'm just goofy. Like I think that's what probably people, unless you're really close to me, don't see. Because when I'm at work, I work as a bartender, like I'm very just business, and that's probably, and I look that way. Like if I don't smile, like I'm just like, people just like think I'm in a bad mood or I'm going to murder somebody. And I get that, like, are you okay? Like, why don't you smile kind of thing, and I'm just like, because especially if I'm focused, then I definitely look like, and then I'm short because I'm busy and I got all the things. But my day-to-day life, like I'm kind of immature. And I think only like my boyfriends will know that. And, a few of my very close friends, like just, and my cats see a lot of things. I'm just kidding.
What's the cat's favorite treats?
Oh my God. Okay. Monkey's obsessed with, what do you think?
Temptations?
Yes. Like obsessed. That's how I was able to teach her how to sit and all that stuff. Sonny likes that as well, but he's not as picky. So he'll eat anything. He'll actually eat food off my plate. So he actually broke a plate yesterday of mine because I was eating a New York steak and I left like the bone on there. And then he was trying to get the bone. So Sunny likes real food. Monkey, she's so good. She really just like eats her dry cat food, eats her little soft food. And she's just like, I could have anything out. She will not go for it. Sunny, no, he'll like grab it and like run. How about your cats?
Latte, she loves Temptations, and anything seafood she'll eat.
Seafood. How did you come up with the name Latte?
Latte, she had the name before I adopted her from the Humane Society. An older woman had her, and I guess named her Latte because she was a sweet cat. So, but Latte is very smart. And after we're done our show today, I'll send you a picture of Latte. She's very spoiled, and it took her a couple of months to show her character when she moved to a new house. Anytime a new cat, dog, or pet goes into your house, it takes a couple of months for them to get used to the surroundings. Then you see what their real character and personality is like.
That's so true. So true. I guess I'm like a
I'm going to have to turn this into a part 2 show today. I want to say thank you so much, Linda, for coming on here and for having faith in me to come on my show. And I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. You're the second podcast I've ever had. The first one is like a friend of mine. He has one called like Friends with Brett.
And this one is a Canadian podcast too. So we're going to have to get you more attention up here in Canada.
Yes, because I'm Asian and I can, I fit right in Canada, Canada.
We are a multicultural country.
Yes, I really enjoyed my time there, and I love maple syrup because of that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, when I come up to California, because I need to see Nino and Chris and a few other people, I'll bring you some maple syrup. And I was talking to somebody else that you've worked with on 8 films. I'm gonna see if you can guess who it was.
On which films?
8 films he's worked with you on. I talked to him yesterday on Instagram.
Is it Johnny?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you one more guess.
Oh,
one more guess.
One more guess. Okay, 8 films.
8 films.
Is it Ryan Shane?
No, he's going to be coming on my show soon. His name is Louis DiStefano.
Oh, Louis! I feel like we've worked on way more than 8 films together because we worked on like 20 films in the time that we were with Greg. So I mean, if you would have said that, maybe as an actor, no, but we've worked on, at least it feels like 20 films, but we've worked on a lot of those films in like that circa that 1.5 years. Louis is great. He's a very hard worker and, just passionate about this whole filmmaking and he's doing really well.
Any more projects with Chris and Nino coming up in the future?
Not with them in the future. I do have something that I just shot called Barren, and it's about infertility, like women dealing with infertility. It's a friend of mine, Mark, who is the DP, and my brain just like stopped working because I'm so bad with names. Sometimes I was like, how do I not know that? Pete Bollinger is like the writer and the director, and there's a female director, Alejandra Lopez, and it's just about like women who are trying to get fertile, and I play the fertility doctor, which is kind of funny because I was just telling somebody how I don't ever get cast for doctor roles, and I mean I might go in for an audition, but I just don't get the role, and then. Of course, I didn't have to audition for this, so I just got lucky, and that's how I was given this role. So it was fun. And then hopefully in June, I'm shooting something with Danny Lopez. He is a martial artist in this martial artist world, and it's just, and that's another thing. I drove with Louis, actually. We drove to Apple Valley, and I was just like an extra. I don't know. I don't even think, I was just doing it because I was bored, and why not? And then just from that, he was like, oh, hey, so, I'd like to work on another project and, have a role in mind for you. And I was like, really? And then, that's just how you do it. It's like you just go and then you show up and then, you just keep doing that. I mean, and then hopefully it all works out. I'll let you know, like in another 10 years. Did I quit the industry or not?
Okay, deal. And finally, your favorite red carpet interview you've done so far, and where can my audience follow you on social media? And I guess you've already answered the second part of this question about advice giving to those looking to pursue a career in the acting profession.
You asked such great questions. Like, that's why I actually was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go on the show because you asked wonderful questions. I feel like I should have been more prepared. My favorite red carpet interview would be I don't remember. One of them that's memorable would be the director of the movie Tangerine in the Florida Project. I'm terrible with names of things. Like, I'm not pop culture. Like, you do not want me on your team if it's Trivia Pursuit. I'm like a kinesthetic memory person. Like it's like a muscle memory for me, but like facts and figures and things I just can't remember. So I cannot remember his name, but I know your audience probably knows who I'm talking about. He filmed a thing on iPhone. It's memorable to me because I remember he was saying, I asked him, what kind of a director is he? And he said he was an actor's director. And I was like, oh, you're an actor director? Like I just didn't spend enough time researching, but he had given, like, everything that he said was really, really awesome. but I don't remember any of it. But I do have it somewhere in my storage of tons of interviews that I've had. And then the social media, I'm just on Instagram, Linda S. Wong. I have my Facebook, but that's kind of for people that I've actually met in person, at least, or, in your case like this.
Absolutely. And favorite song, and do you have any musical talent? And finally, this will be the last thing I ask you. Any plans for a book in the future about your career?
I don't have a favorite song. I just have favorite songs. I love Mumford and Sons. He has a song called Wild Heart. It's about love, and maybe it's because I heard it at the time of the things I was going through. So it really it's not, I don't know if it's unrequited love, but just chasing like a wild heart, wild heart can't ever be captured. So great song.
I'll check that out.
Okay. Depeche Mode, Somebody.
Good choice.
Great. I was actually just listening to Leonard Cohen before. I like Leonard Cohen. I usually like a man with a guitar or a woman guitar and just like lyrics about relationships and stuff. I don't really have a favorite like musician or anything like that. The next question was plan about a book, or what was
a book. Yeah.
Sorry, such a bonehead. You have questions. Where? Oh wait, never mind.
Would you ever write a book about your career at some point?
I would. Not necessarily about my career. I think it could just be about life. Only because I feel like I think that's what we humans are like to do. Because if I walk out, what do we do? It's like in the beginning was the word, right? It's like, so people, there's like books and everybody just likes to write. So it's like something about talking and sharing and like expression, and one of my things that I have written is like, I like freedom of expression is really what is my driving force, I guess. And so one day I would, I still have to get the courage to write about things, because, we all have our like traumatic upbringing stuff, and sometimes I don't want to write about it because, I don't want to talk negatively about something, or I don't want people to have a bad opinion about this person or that person, but I do feel that there's always these lessons, and I guess I just don't know what the end of the book is about, so yes, I would consider it, or I would do it. Do I have something in mind right now? No. Specifically, no.
I look at life as a book as one chapter of my life is closed and a new chapter is beginning. So that's how I look at life, as just like a book, chapters.
Do you have a book planned?
No, but I'm trying to write a book about I'm hoping one day when I've gone from doing security work into being a full-time radio host, and that's my goal. And I just love doing this show and love meeting people and talking to people and learning from them and storytelling.
It's great. I don't know why I don't podcast. It's like what I should do. I don't.
You're great. You're great.
Wake up like reading books about like acting so much. Like I really like all, I'm so like bad with remembering anything, but like, like these are the things I like reading is like self-help books. I just have to show you because like I can't think. Like As a Man Thinketh, So He Shall Be. Oh my God, that's a great book. What to Talk to Yourself, Cleo Wade, The Secret, and then all back here are just more books that people write that help people somehow. And I agree with you, like in every chapter of your life, maybe I don't feel like I'm somebody, like to write about anything. So I have, when I thought, I'm like, what would I write about? I'd be like, I would probably title the book like Nobody. I'm a nobody, talking just about life. And I don't mean it in a bad way. I just mean like, that's just what it is. It's somebody's shared experience, or somebody's experience, I'm sorry, that you can share, because you just don't know how many other people might be going through the same thing, or you never know who you might affect, along the way in your life. And so
you're never alone.
Yeah, you're never alone. Exactly.
And
People,
even though I don't read a lot of books, when I have my guests on, I try to read up on my guests. I like to try to like read up about my guests and try to find out maybe there's some stuff that they've forgotten about, just so when they come on my show, I can say, hey, you know what I mean? So I just do your homework. Do your homework. It's like being an actor, actress, or whatever you're in the film industry. Always, you should do your homework.
yeah, that was the lesson that I had with Tangerine Man. I'm like, God, I still can't remember his name. Well, just that whole thing. But you know what? In my defense, because I'll always find that, is that I was asked to do like these interviews for some guy for a 98.7 for a star or whatever. iHeart Radio. And sorry, I got to plug in because I just realized it might die. iHeartRadio, and I just didn't know who was even going to be there. And it was for the Critics' Choice Awards. So it was like a big deal for me because I'm just doing all these like little independent films. Of course, I was just like all these people would go by, and then because I was saying like I'm not like current politics or current trivia pursuit stuff, like I was like I don't know who some of these people are, and I don't watch the movies. So it's just like you kind of have to quickly find the common ground and like, you know, just let them talk anyways. It's not about you. So it was like, whatever. And then they just go off, and then having like good listening skills. But I'll tell you what, the people to my right and the people to my left were amazing. I'm just like learning from them because, you know, that was just my first. But hopefully one day I'll go back to Critics' Choice.
Absolutely. And Linda, I want to say thank you so much for coming on here today. You have an open invite to come back on again. And yeah, I would love to have Chris and Nino and even Lewis come on and I can have actually with StreamYard, I can have up to 10 guests on one of my shows if I wanted to.
Oh, yeah, we should do a group one because I love their interview. I was like, I don't know, I'm not going to be as entertaining. I just love Chris Spinelli, but it would be fun to do like a group. And then you'll like meet everybody because it's the same, you know, those movies, it's the same, you know, cast. I loved all the scenes I did with Shane, who was the one that was with Nicole. Like he's just so great. He just really gives in every character, and he like goes above and beyond, even like creating like tattoos for this. And, you know, that's the process. Like, I guess everybody likes acting for different reasons, you know? So some people like just to emote, and some people really like delving into characters. Some people just like to be on the screen, you know?
And for me, I love talking. I love asking questions, and I like learning and just being yourself. Be yourself. Doesn't matter what you're doing, and just always be yourself, because people can tell if you're being phony or not on here, especially.
I'm like, oh my God. I'm just kidding. Hey, so my last question to you then is, what do you like about actors, or like what stands out to you?
Just, it's not an easy profession to get into. It's just the passion, I guess, because to be in it and do it long term, you obviously have to have a love for it, a passion for it, and willingness to continue to get better at it. And yeah, I just love the whole industry. And I wouldn't even met any of you people if I didn't, any of my guests, if I didn't go into this new career. And it changes your life. And I'm sure when you do every movie, you meet somebody interesting every time you're in a new film.
Oh, 100%. So who was your first actor that you interviewed?
Let's see. Nino was a couple years ago. Nino I've had on. Chris I've had on a couple times. I've had ventriloquists on my show. I'll tell you, my first guest, her name is Christine Barger. She's an actress and a ventriloquist out of Los Angeles, California. And I'll be honest with you, 4 years ago, I wasn't very good. And she was kind enough to come on. And I thank her for having the faith to come on, because I've gone from now one guest to almost 400 guests the last 4 years on my show.
Yeah, keep going. I mean, I listen to like Lewis Holmes. Is that his last name? Oh my God. House. House. This is why I gotta get fired. And all these podcast people, you know, Diary of a CEO. I love Andrew Huberman. Who else? Alex Friedman, like all these people, and they just keep going. I mean, it's kind of like they have like nothing, and then all of a sudden there's that thing, and you just that plateau, and then you know if you I don't know if plateau is the right word, but you know what I'm saying, but like just keep going, because honestly, if you like interviewing people, that's just what you're doing. You're learning something out of it, regardless of whether or not other people are or not.
And when I do my shows, I want my guests to feel comfortable with me, and I want to be able to rapport with them. And I've been very lucky in all of my interviews I've done. And I love doing in-person interviews now too. I go to Buffalo in the States a lot, and I get to talk to baseball players. And there's nothing better than when you talk to somebody face to face and just get to know them and stuff like that. And people, I'll be honest, maybe in my 20s, I probably wouldn't have been prepared for this, because people that were in Hollywood or acting or professional athletes, I think I would have been too starstruck. But when I talk to all my guests and ball players now, I just talk to them like I'm at a coffee shop or whatever. I just treat them as human beings. I don't look at them as, hey, this is a baseball star, or this is a famous actor star or whatever.
Yeah, it goes back to like just the right place at the right time, even though sometimes you feel like, oh, I should have started this earlier or whatever. It's always, what is the right time for you individually, right? Because I think if I tried to do this in my 20s, I like acting, I'm just shy. I'm shy. I mean, I'm okay with I'm one-on-one. Okay, I'm an Aries, so we can talk to like anybody.
I'm a Cancer. Oh my
God, I'm always around Cancer. Spencer's a Cancer. My other friend I was with just when we went to whatever is a Cancer when we went to the solar eclipse. It's like a good balance, the water fire. But I am I'm like more introverted. I know I'm like outgoing right now, but like not that I'm like a weirdo. Well, maybe I'm a weirdo sometimes, but like one-on-one, I could talk to anybody. In a group setting, I'm definitely more going to sit back and, really like be a fly in the wall. So
for many years I was shy, and when I was in school, I hated public speaking. I avoided it, and now I do public speaking for local high schools here, and it's amazing how I've evolved over the years, from being not antisocial, but being shy and staying out of the spotlight. And now I've kind of put myself on that. But this is something I really enjoy.
Yeah. Well, you're very good at it, as I said already, and again, and I'll keep saying it again, and you'll just get even better.
Well, thank you so much, Linda. And I'm going to continue to watch some more of your movies. And one day I want to get up to California. I've never been to California, so I want to see Chris and Nino, and I want to bring you some maple syrup too.
I would love that. Thank you so much again for this interview. It was fun.
It was, and it flew by, and we set a record for my longest show. Thank you for helping me set a record.
You're welcome.
And if you give me a little bit of time tonight, I will send you an audio and video copy of our show, and I'll do some clips for us as well, and you can post on your social media if you'd like.
Okay, sure. Take your time. Like I don't know how to do that, so I'm gonna have to pick your brain on like.
I learned how to do this on Christmas Day. Christmas Day, I spent 8 hours learning how to edit video. I was frustrated, but after 8 hours, I'm like, oh, I figured it out, and now I love doing it. I really enjoy it.
Cool. Well, thank you.
So, thank you so much, Linda, and I hope you have a great evening and weekend, and we can keep in touch on here on social media, and you have an open invite to come back on again in the future.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to that invite. You let me know when. Just kidding.
Okay. Thanks, Linda.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed Season 8, Episode 5 of Live with CDP Sports Talk tonight with my guest, Linda S. Wong. She's an independent film actress, filmmaker, and was recently in the DeMarco Crew movie with Chris Spinelli and Nino Sciamino. And also, she was in the movie called The American Comedy as Dana. So you can check out her Instagram at Linda S. Wong. And she's also on the IBDM website. I'm going to put it up right here. You can check her out on imdb.com/name and NM3246880 as well. I'm going to wrap this show up, guys, because this was a little longer, over 2 hours. I want to just let you guys know the next Live with CDP Sports Talk to be announced. I'm trying to work on a show or two next week. I will be in Detroit next Thursday and part of Friday for the NFL draft. I'm going to be doing a story on the NFL draft and doing some player interviews as well. So thank you to the National Football League, and I'm excited to be a part of the NFL draft next week in Detroit. Also, the Small Talk podcast returns episode 4 this week on Monday with Marlene and Chris, my co-host Marlene, on Monday, April 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern. Our special guest is going to be Judy Utah. She's the president of the Orange County Asperger's Support Group, known as OCASG, a nonprofit organization improving the quality of life for individuals and families dealing with high-functioning autism in the Orange County, California area. So, Small Talk podcast, Monday, April 22nd with 8 p.m. with Marlene Sharp and myself as well. Finally, guys, we're going to wrap this show up. Live with CDP Sports Talk is on weeknights at 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. on CKRT Border City Radio in Windsor, and also on WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. And Live with CDP Sports Talk, again, is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. You can also check out my website at beacons.ai/Chris D. Pomay. I am also a content creator on TikTok at Live with CDP on TikTok. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're into webinars or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk, the audio version is available on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, and Tuned In. Finally, you guys can email or text Live with CDP Sports Talk at cpome19@gmail.com, or you can text the show at 519-820-7188. Any comments, questions, suggestions, feedbacks would be greatly appreciated. And finally, the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs start this weekend. We have the Islanders and Hurricanes, the Leafs and Bruins, Tampa Bay and Florida, Washington and the New York Rangers, Colorado versus the Jets, Nashville versus Vancouver, Vegas versus Dallas, and the Kings versus the Oilers. And as for my Detroit Tigers, they're on the road for the next 7 games. They've got 3 against the Minnesota Twins this weekend at Target Field in Minnesota, and then they go to Tampa Bay to Tropicana Field to take on the Rays for 4 games as well. And that's about it, guys. I want to say thank you again to my guests, Linda S. Wong, again, independent film actress, filmmaker, and recently was in the DeMarco Crew and the American Comedy as Dana. Thank you so much to Linda S. Wong for coming on. And I want to say thank you to everyone watching this live streamed and audio platforms. And again, I'm working on more shows for next week with Live with CDP Sports Talk, and the Small Talk podcast, Season 2, Episode 4, returns this Monday night at 8 o'clock with Marlene Sharp and myself with her special guest, Judy Utah, president of the Orange County Asperger's Society as well. And we're going to talk about autism as well going on, and I'm looking forward to it. That's about it. Again, I hope everybody has a great night, great weekend. Enjoy the Major League Baseball games. The NBA playoffs are starting up soon. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here. And looking forward to next week covering the NFL draft in Detroit on the Thursday night, Thursday, April 25th. So check my social media pages out for player interviews and a game night story as well. Again, Thank you to Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership for sponsoring Live with CDP Sports Talk and WQEE 99.1 FM and CKRT Border City Radio in Windsor. And again, thank you to Linda S. Wong, an actress, for coming on Live with CDP Sports Talk tonight. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you Monday night at 8 o'clock for the next edition of Small Talk Podcast with Marlene Sharp and Chris Pomek.